What's good, y'all? Hope all is well. Joshua Grady here. We are back, continuing with our Draft Diaries series, and today we're talking on the 2018 draft class. Okay, so in 2018 we signed one guy. Shout out my man Jordan Wilkins. Jordan, I guess a bit of background. Jordan is the younger brother of my college roommate. Shout out Trey. I remember when I was in college, me and Trey were roommates. And again, one of my best friends, dear friend of mine, and didn't really know what I wanted to do in the future, really had no idea what an agent role was, but I always told Trey, like, hey, if your brother goes to the NFL and I become an agent, I'm gonna represent him. And he was like, duh, like, of course. Jordan was running back coming out of Ole Miss, and was just someone who had a lot of talent, a lot of potential, and just a family friend. Like, the Wilkins family welcomed me with open arms. I'll never forget the first time I went to Memphis. I was like, dang, Trey, like, I see why you love going home. He would go home every single weekend in college to see his girlfriend at the time, Ashley. Shout out to Ashley, who's now his wife. They had one child with another on the way, really next 2-3 weeks, I want to say. And so they just always been family. Mr. and Mrs. Wilkins, they just welcomed me with open arms. And so when the time came for Jordan to sign, it was just kind of a no-brainer, at least in my eyes. We won't go too far into the recruiting process, but it was a no-brainer in my eyes, like, this is something we got to work with. And so out of all of the guys that we reached out to, all of the guys that said no, Jordan was the one guy in the 2018 draft class that said, yes, like, I trust you, I'm going to roll with you, and just so very grateful. And so with Jordan, when it came to just draft time, we kind of had a range of where we thought Jordan was going to end up. Jordan was a combine guy, so that means a certain amount of teams like him. He had a really good pro day workout, had gotten calls from numerous amount of teams, interviewed with a good amount of teams. It was just someone where we kind of knew his draft range. I spoke recently. If you haven't checked out our most recent episode, I think dropped yesterday with Leon and TJ, it was very different. In that draft class, like, I really felt like I had no idea what I was doing, just kind of a guessing game. But now with Jordan, after having a year under my belt, felt a lot more confident in the approach, really felt, again, confident in his draft range, had more connections with teams, was able to get some more feedback from scouts, things of that nature. And he was just overall a better overall prospect. Really did his thing his senior year. And so with Jordan, we kind of knew, okay, come day 3, really range 4 through 7, he could go at any time. So even before we get to actual draft weekend, one thing I will tell you all, shout out to Mrs. Wilkins, I would never forget this. She had texted me, Angie had texted me about, this was maybe like 2 or 3 days before the draft. And when you get to the draft, you kind of know, like, okay, this is my guy's range. Like, we've talked to all 32 teams. The highest had 4th round grades. Some even went over to like priority free agent because they just knew they weren't going to draft him. And I would say, as an agent, your job, you have to be able to temper expectations, okay? Now, I'll never forget, Mrs. Wilkins had texted me like 2 or 3 days before the draft. Now, she was hopeful that Jordan would go like late 2nd round. And I'm like, late 2nd round, what? But I mean, she's a mom. You're always gonna have that optimism that your son is gonna, go whatever it could be. I believe he was a 2nd round talent, but also realizing, like, in this particular draft class, the running back class was loaded. And so we just kind of knew, okay, based on everything, all of the variables, this is where he sat. And again, was kind of for us that 4 through 7 range. And so as we get to, and again, shout out Mrs. Wilkins, she's amazing. I just could not be more grateful of the support, because Jordan never signs with us without her playing a major role in the process. So we get to draft weekend, and again, you kind of know what teams might be interested at this point, but you really don't know. Now, yesterday's episode with Leon, I had mentioned, as an agent, my perspective, do not watch the draft with your client or with their family. And this was an example of why. So we were watching the draft in Memphis. We get to day 3. I'm at Jordan's house. We're watching it. We're upstairs, okay? And in my head, I'm like, it's going to be me, Lydia, it's going to be Jordan, and his now fiance, Brooke. It's going to be us 4 in this upstairs room. The rest of the family is going to be downstairs, because, like, this is the business room. Like, this is where we need to be so we can have our peace and quiet and just like a stress-free environment. But naturally, as you're watching the draft, people come up the stairs, go down the stairs. I remember he had a coach. I think, shout out Chris. I love and respect Chris. Chris coming up the stairs, asking questions, what you think's going on? And you're like watching the draft, like you're trying to focus. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to keep Jordan relaxed and calm. And you got people just in and out. And every time you get a call, everyone's eyes just like, is that the team? You know what I'm saying? Like teams are gonna call you. They wanna see like what's going on, what you're hearing, things of that nature, what's your feel. And so it's just the stress that I think people don't understand, or they can't understand it because they're not in your shoes. They're not, you know, their legacy is not tied to what happens with this weekend. Mine is, Jordan's is. And so they're just not gonna understand. So the whole time my hands are clammy. Again, every time my phone buzzes, whether it's a parent, a friend, a brother, whoever it could be, they're gonna look at you. Like it doesn't matter if it's the Wilkins family, it's the Coward family, it's this family, that family. That's just the nature of it because you're always hopeful that that one phone call is the phone call, even if it's not. And so, you know, you're going through that. Again, teams are reaching out. I'll never forget it. Jordan had asked me, he had said, you know, what do you think about Indy? Like, what do you think about Indy? And we had not talked to Indy. Like, I had not talked to Indianapolis the entire time. I had not talked to Indianapolis the entire time. I talked about with Leon, with the Chiefs. I had not talked to the Chiefs the entire time. And so this was just another confirmation. There's a team that ends up drafting, I'll talk about this in a little bit, that ends up drafting your player that I did not talk to. They didn't need to talk to me. They did their own due diligence. You know what I'm saying? And when Jordan had even asked me about what about Indy, I was like, they're not even on the radar because they never worked you out. They didn't really interview him. They never really talked. I think they might have talked to him like once or twice. And so I was just like, I don't think they're going to be the one to pull the trigger. And so basically what ends up happening, and just like we did yesterday, we're going to drop at the end of this video, we will drop just a transparent video so y'all can see like the draft moment. Like this was incredible, okay? This was kind of, you know, this was the first draft that we had someone get picked, and it was like we can now just celebrate, like overjoyed. Okay, so we're watching the draft, and again, you know, not really sure what was going to happen. A few teams that talked to Jordan Saturday morning. I know the Cowboys was one, the Seahawks was another, Texans was another, and Jordan ends up getting a phone call. So it's a fifth round. Jordan ends up getting a phone call, and he walks out of the room. Okay, and when the call does come, like, you know, like this is the one. Like, you know, without a shadow of a doubt, you know this is the call. Okay, and Jordan walks out the room, and we all follow him. Like, where you going? And we go out, we go follow him. And I just remember him, like, he's like, yes, sir. Like, yes, sir, I'm excited. You know, this is just whatever it is. Whatever he was saying, I don't really remember. I guess y'all can watch the video and you'll see it for yourself. And you just like, again, it's like time is frozen. It's like time is frozen. It's like you've done all of this work. I just got off a Zoom call. You've done all this work. And I was telling him, like, for 12 plus months, 16 months, however many months, for this one moment to try to help this young man achieve their dream. And when they get that call, it's like everything just stands still. Nothing else matters. And I remember Jordan hangs up the phone, and I just see the biggest grin on his face. And he's like, hey, and we just go berserk, bruh. Like, we just go crazy. We don't know who it is. We don't know where he's going, but it don't matter at this point. It's like this man got drafted. And so we come downstairs. I thought it was the Cowboys because I know the Cowboys pick was coming up. They had talked to him that morning, talking about, we think we're going to draft you. And so he was just like, it's not a team that y'all think it is. And so you're watching, and like I mentioned yesterday, you know, there's a few picks ahead. You're a few picks ahead of TV. And we're watching, and it ends up being little buddy, the Indianapolis Colts select Jordan Wilkins, running back, Ole Miss. And it just, you know, it's just joy, just pure joy. I think his dad and Blakely actually went to go get food or something. So Mr. Wilkins misses the pick. So he missed the pick. But in that moment, again, you're overjoyed, man. It's like, it's one of those things where it's just another stepping stone to the vision. You know, it's another stepping stone to, like, the first year with Leon being drafted, it was like, okay, it almost felt like a fluke. Like, I didn't earn this, you know, he was probably gonna get drafted anyways without me. But now that this happens, like second year, 2 in a row, back to back, you know, I'm 25 at this point, or 24 at this point, and you got a draft pick. It's like, okay, maybe 25. But regardless, like, it now felt like I was affirmed, like I belong here. Like We had one guy, there's one guy that trusted in us, and we had one guy get drafted, like 100%, one of one, we're good, done deal. And again, it's just, you're grateful. We're able, you know, at this point, your guy get drafted, you got one guy, you close the laptop, you can put the phone on airplane mode. I remember, I don't know who went, somebody went to get like hats, got hats for Jordan, and we're taking pictures outside. We go to this Mexican restaurant, we eat, and it's just, again, like, it's just bliss, because you have this young man that has been working his entire life for this opportunity, for this moment, and just to be able to be a part of it, there is no substitution. You know, there is nothing else in the world that I think of where, like, you are able to have to put in so much work, so many hours, so much grind. Jordan went through surgery, you know, in high school, injuries, having to overcome. Jordan was suspended a year because of an error by his academic advisor. And for him to now get to this moment is very empowering. Like, there's no substitute, there's no comparison. And so to be able to share that moment with him, you're overjoyed. And then this right here, so for y'all to see it, so this was something, shout out Mr. Ballard. So I've never met this man, but Mr. Ballard, if you see this, I appreciate you. So after Leon got drafted, I got a card from John Dorsey, probably something written by a secretary, but got a card from him. But now they send me this football. We get this in the mail, and it says here, let's see, 2018 NFL draft choice, Indianapolis Colts, Jordan Wilkins. And he had just like a little printed letter, and Mr. Ballard sent this to me. And I'm very grateful for this because he didn't have to do this. You know, this is something that's in my office. I just keep it right here. And it's just a tangible of where God has brought me. You know, like nobody, it doesn't matter what happens with the rest of my career, nobody will ever be able to take this moment away from me. And it's just, again, just very grateful that God chose me and called me to be in this moment. And even going back to working with Jordan, me and Trey ended up roommates because we all wanted these little doubles, or these singles. So we wanted singles at Vandy, but the singles were based on seniority. We were only sophomores at this point. So it got to a point with rooming where I didn't have a roommate, Trey didn't have a roommate, all of my crew friends were living together. And so Trey was a good dude. I said, hey, you trying to room together? He said, yes. We ended up living together for the next 3 years, developing a true bond. And now, because of that, because of truly a God-ordained partnership or companionship, you fast forward a few years and that becomes a guy that we draft, or that guy that we sign that gets drafted. Without Jordan signing with us, without us being family, without his mom promoting like, hey, this is the one you need to roll with, I don't know where GSA becomes or what we become or where we end up. I tell Jordan all the time, whenever we talk, like, yo, everything we're doing with our marketing agency, with the documentary, everything that we have, none of it happens if Jordan does not have the trust and the faith to roll with me. And now Jordan is our longest tenured player in the NFL. He's going into his 4th year. He's a year away from getting, being blessed enough to get to a second contract. And I'm just, again, very grateful that he trusted in me enough to be along for this journey with him. But again, going back to what I was saying with the fact that he had not talked with the Colts, it was, again, affirmation for you all listening. If you're an aspiring agent, it doesn't matter who you know or you don't know in the NFL. I had not talked to the Colts one time. If you sign the right player that has the right mindset, the right mentality, the right God-given athleticism, the opportunity is going to be given to him no matter who his representation is. Okay, and so if you're a parent that you got a guy right now or a son right now that's an NFL draft prospect and you're turning away younger agents because of experience, there's people that turn me away because of my lack of experience, in quotes, whose son was not drafted, but Jordan was drafted. Okay, so that's just the reality of the situation. But again, I'm just very grateful. Grateful for Jordan, grateful for the Wilkins family, just everything that they provided, all the support. Just couldn't be more blessed and more thankful. So with that being said, if you see some, or if you received some value in this, subscribe to the YouTube. I'll keep saying that, subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate it if you're listening to this on the audio. I might drop this on the audio, I'm not sure, but you can subscribe there too as well. And then just stay tuned. About to drop a clip of the moment so y'all can just kind of experience with me, with us, what that moment was like when Jordan got the call. And then just be on the lookout for more Draft Diaries. Agent Grady on Instagram, @Agent Grady_, @Agent Talk Podcast on IG, at GSA Football, at Grady Media, all of the things. Aside from that,
live from the Children's Museum of Indianapolis with the 169th pick in the 2018 NFL Draft.